starting with No Jumper versus Before They Were Famous. All right. Now, the Before They Were Famous platform is a Canadian platform, Toronto-based platform. Big salute to Michael McCrudden, who's been holding it down over there at Before They Were Famous from time. And yeah, they've been doing their thing. They've had videos that have been in the multitude of millions. I've been on there myself as a special guest host when it came to the Chromas interview, as well as, or not Chromas interview, but the Chromas Before They Were Famous, as well as with the Pressa one, right? So I've had a chance to work with Michael in the past. And, you know, we've had talks behind the scenes, and not to even, you know, divulge any of the conversations that Michael and I have had behind the scenes. Sorry, can't talk right now. But not to divulge any of the conversations that Michael and I have had behind the scenes. But, you know, it's been to the degree, at least, that No Jumper hasn't been his favorite podcast or favorite podcast network, right? He's expressed in the past, and it's been seen publicly, that him and No Jumper has had issues. So the parts that I'm expressing right now are things that have, you know, been more in the public. And him and No Jumper has had issues as far as maybe him using clips from No Jumper interviews inside some of his content. You know, as far as for the people who don't know, No Jumper is a podcast platform, or, you know, they do mainly podcasts. They have a lot of interviews on there, legendary interviews. And with McCrudden's network being more of, you know, a documentary style platform. Okay, let's say that, right? So a platform where they will cover things that, you know, a person who's in the news, who's getting a lot of notoriety, or, you know, who's having a current, you know, a lot of attention, media attention, they'll do a Before They Were Famous on that person and cover the life of that person, do the research that it takes to give a concise, maybe 15-minute life story of that person before they got to the point of where they're famous at the moment, right? Just to give you a summation of what Before They Were Famous does. And I think the name kind of speaks for itself, right? So they've had issues in the past, as well as a few other platforms, with content being used, embedded inside of these videos. I've done it myself, you know, back in the days, especially with the We Love Hip Hop podcast. We've done a lot of content where we cut away to a music video, different things like that. And, you know, I don't know if y'all have seen in the viewing audience, at least, but that has slowed down a lot. Okay, because of copyrights, there's only so much of a video that you can use before the content creator themselves get an alert saying that somebody's using their content or using more of their content that is allotted by YouTube before you start getting into the copyright infringement territories. Okay, now I hope that that's a good enough explanation of some of the issues that YouTubers deal with when it comes to making content, and making especially documentary style content, or even podcast style content, where, for example, if I wanted to do a pop-up of a video on the screen, I have to be very diligent in the way that I do it. I have to make sure that I'm using sound effects, that I'm talking, I'm explaining and giving context to why I'm using this clip. So I'm going to get into a clip right now of from the No Jumper podcast. Big up to Adam22, big up to Trap Lord Ross. Okay, those two guys were having a very insightful conversation / interview on the No Jumper podcast, and it was a live interview, a rare live interview. And they started discussing all the different things that go on in the scene, and different things that, you know, Trap Lord Ross has been going through on his come up and stuff. And the name Before They Were Famous started getting kicked around. My ears perked up, and I said, "Hey, well, wait a minute, they're talking about the home team." Okay. And, you know, let me just put this out there as well. I fuck with all parties, right? I fuck with Adam heavy. I fuck with, obviously, with Mike McCrudden, okay, being the home team. And, you know, I fuck with Trap Lord Ross, right? All three parties I'm very good with, let's say. Okay. And some more than others, obviously. You know, Trap Lord Ross is all the way in the UK. We have an interview with him right now. Check that out on our channel. And, you know, Adam, I have an interview with Adam, and I've had conversations with him behind the scenes multiple times. Okay. Not long, extensive conversations like, how's your day and all that type of like dumb shit, but like, I'll holler at him and vice versa. Okay. And he's had other Canadian artists on the No Jumper podcast as like, Chromas, Smiley, different people like that. So he's in tune with what's going on over here in Toronto. Right. So I'm going to play a clip here from that episode. Don't come for me. Okay, Adam, please. I'm going to make sure to do everything I can to make it not where we're just ripping your content off as you may feel that McCrudden was.
Steal stuff, but then on the other hand, it's kind of like, this is the internet. The facts are, it is easy to steal that content. So you've got to find a way of becoming different. For me, it's like when I was just doing little 10-minute videos, topics, 10, 15-minute videos, I was one of the first people to start doing that kind of content. It got pretty saturated quickly, and I had to look into myself and say like, okay, well, how can I stand out? Like, what sets me apart? I go deeper. It's like,
now, just to give you all a little bit of context right now, he's talking, and this is Trappler Ross who's speaking. You know what? I should put this up on the YouTube screen or on the screen behind me. Make sure to hit us up on Instagram also, Visionary Arts
steal stuff, but then
Center. Okay? The name is changing just to Visionary Arts Studios, okay? Because it's not the whole big thing that we had before. Just give me a quick second. Let me just put it on the screen. Bow. And let's hear what Trappler Ross has to say.
Kind of like, this is the internet. The facts are, it is easy to steal that content. So you've got to find a way of becoming different, standing out. For me, it's like when I was just doing little 10-minute videos on different topics, 10, 15-minute videos, I was one of the first people to start doing that kind of content. It got pretty saturated quickly, and I had to look into myself and say like, okay, well, how can I stand out? Like, what sets me apart? I go deeper. It's like, I'm gonna make my videos longer, more in depth.
Pause. So yeah, Trappler Ross, just to give you all a little bit of context before the Were Famous conversation starts to come up. Trappler Ross right now is having a conversation about his content being, I guess stolen or plagiarized in a way by different media platforms or YouTube platforms like Hip Hop Daily. Okay. They're explaining how Hip Hop Daily used to have more views at one point in time, and they started going down because people started noticing that it was, I guess, from what they're saying, carbon copy, not authentic type of content. Let's continue.
Like, people can't really keep up. They don't really have the passion to keep up. Hip Hop Daily, I don't know who's behind the channel because they remain anonymous, right? But they aren't interested in these hip hop stories or like putting out the truth or getting to the facts of what's going on. They're just interested in making stealing someone else's idea, chopping up a 10-minute video and making some money off of it. So,
and it can become tricky because it's like there really is no way for you to combat it except for you to kind of like educate the community, but then at the same time, you don't really want to talk about it that much because you're just drawing attention to it. But then, like, I kind of feel like people talk so much shit about before they were famous that before they were famous kind of like fell off view count wise.
Okay, so here's the part now where he starts talking about that, right? He gets right out the gate. It was like, he thinks that before they were famous fell off. Okay, let's continue here a little bit more before I give my commentary.
Guys, I actually saw a video in which Michael McCrudden basically like blamed a big part of that on me for shitting on him, which I'm like, I don't think that I have that kind of power. But I mean,
here's the problem with before they were famous, right? It just became a content farm, and that's why the Hip Hop Daily's falling off because they're not passionate about the topics. You watch a Michael McCrudden video. I mean, he's not even hosting a lot of it now. Yeah. But like, you see him do a video on Quando Rondo because like his friend just got killed or whatever it is. It's like, oh, check out a Quando video. He's like mispronouncing all of his album names, getting shit wrong. Yeah. Like, you can tell they don't give a fuck about this stuff they're talking about.
That's
Jesus Christ, they're going in. So, and I'm gonna continue the video a little bit more. With what they're saying right here, they're feeling like these guys, I guess, to put it in more of a nutshell, are not putting any soul into the content. They don't really care about the content that they're filming. It's more like, like Trappler Ross is saying, it's a content farm. I don't completely agree with that just from knowing them personally. And, he did mention that they do have other people behind the scenes. Big up to the man, them behind the scenes. I see them doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? Man like fucking Marlon Palmer, the next brother, I forget your name. So I'm really, really, really sorry. But there's other people behind the scenes and they have a Spanish channel. But from what these guys are saying, or their feelings about it at least, is that when it comes to before they were famous and content creators like that, that these guys are just there to get the quick hit, right? So let's continue.
Shitting on him in the first place was because I did that fucking Suicide Boys interview and their label crew, whatever, is G59, and he does this video about them. And at the time, there was almost nothing that you would have been able to find about them besides my interview. So he does the video. It's blatantly cribbed from my interview. So that was the first time that ever happened to me, where I'm kind of annoyed by that. And he's calling it G59. So he's like completely mispronouncing their fucking label name and everything, which basically means that you didn't even listen to their music enough to hear something that they're saying on like a large percentage of the songs.
So and it's also just to make mention also, I'm trying to get some commentary from Michael McCrudden. He hasn't had a chance to completely take this in, so it's hard to get commentary back from him. And, you know, he's busy in the world, so but I'm definitely when he sees this, he'll let me know his feelings on this as well. I don't know the ins and outs. I'll be honest. You know what I'm saying? No matter what we've spoken about behind the scenes, I don't know the ins and outs completely of these guys' beef. I know when it comes to any content creator beef, and trust me, there is content creator beef out here. Okay. But I know one thing, it's very tricky when it comes to reusing other content creators' content, right? A lot of the times it won't be the content creator themselves, like let's say the person, the UZ, for lack of a better term. It won't be that person who is looking for anybody who's using their content. Okay, they're not stalking around the internet or stalking around YouTube looking under titles to try to find out if anybody else is using their content. A lot of times you'll get a notification in your emails, or if you go through the copyright, tab in the back end on your YouTube, in the YouTube studio, creator studio, you can go in the copyright section and see if anybody else has been using pieces of your content or too long of your content, which can be considered an infringement on copyrights. Okay. And then at that point in time, you can decide whether you want to hit the button on them and say you have 7 days to remove the content, or just hit their channel with a strike. Okay. For the people who are YouTubers, this is already given information, but not everybody in the world's a YouTuber. So not everybody knows that this is the options that YouTubers have behind the scenes. Okay. Trust me, I've had my share of issues with people who call it ratting when you hit them with a copyright. Okay, but let's continue.
Pronounce it or whatever, and it just kind of stood out to people as like, oh, this is like low level trash content, you know? And it's like nothing personal against them, because now when I look at before they're famous, I'm like, this kind of like real trash content farm type shit was inevitable. And I'm not surprised that this is like something that exists, but I'm not going to fucking hold my tongue about it. You know, I don't feel the need to like personally attack the dude or anything like that. But I mean, especially they clean up their act a lot, because you remember, I think like X died and they had like 4 videos out about it with like gory ass thumbnails, just like, you know, it's just the optics of it at the end of the day just looked really fucking ugly about what they were doing. And the fans at a certain point, they can kind of detect that, right?
Yeah, I feel like he's just had an intern scrape your interview for details. He's thrown it in.
Yo. Okay, so I'm going to stop playing that because obviously I can't play too much of it on this show. That's a whole copyright infringement in itself. You know, and big salute to both parties. I don't want to have any issues with Adam or Trappler Ross, or Adam at least for using his content, right? But my opinions on this is it's a dirty game. It's a very dirty game. I can't really take any sides on it, right? I don't really know the whole story. I don't know how much infractions Michael has really had when it comes to No Jumper and using their content, right? If it's a case of using their content too much, or using too much of their content, I mean, then it is what it is. Having a concerted effort, and this is just my opinion, my opinion, a concerted effort towards making sure that No Jumper is no more, that like their platform doesn't exist anymore. I don't really think that's the thing. I don't really see that in Adam's character, and I don't really see him having a lot of time to be focusing on one platform and saying, you know what, I'm going to make sure that by all means necessary that I'm taking this shit out. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? He could be looking up north over here like, you know what? Fuck those guys over there on Before They Were Famous. I'm going to make sure that they're no more. Okay? Hey, once this is out into the public, okay, hit us up in the comments. Hit us up in the comments, Adam. Hit us up in the comments or in the DMs. Maybe we can get these guys to resolve their issues in some kind of way, come to some kind of understanding. We're all content creators out here. I'm not really big on beefing with content creators. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not saying that we all should be on some kumbaya shit, but at the same time, I don't think that content creators should be beefing because there's a lot of money out here for everybody. There's a lot of eyes out here who are, waiting to watch content. Before They Were Famous, I fuck with them, obviously, like I said, but even Hip Hop Daily. I'm not saying I'm an avid consumer of their content, but I've consumed a lot of their videos as well. And, I feel like everybody has their place when it comes to this content game. So salute to all parties involved, prayers and blessings to everybody.
We love hip hop.
One more topic I want to touch quick before I get Cribbas here is Diddy, aka Brother Love, aka P Diddy, aka Puff Daddy.